Welcome back to a long awaited return to a movie review here on Josh Does Movies. And as you probably can tell from the title, I am not going to recommend this movie. That's right. We had the most disastrous disaster movie I think I've seen in such a long time, Moonfall. This was a movie that seemed like it was going to have a pretty simple concept. Moonfall, got to try to save the Earth. It's going to cause destruction, cool visuals and stuff. And while you get some of that in this movie, I have to say, this was horrible. This had so many different side characters that you don't care about. Really bad acting from a lot of the crew. I'll go into that more in detail. But some of the acting in this movie, just from the very first line, and the first scene that you get is just like you're in a bad movie. And I know what people are gonna say, like, it's Roland Emmerich. For people who don't know, he's somebody who does the latest Independence Day 2012, 10,000 BC. He doesn't make the best movies that translate onto the screen when it comes to dialogue, when it comes to plot and story arcs and stuff. But man, was Moonfall just that bad. You know, it was just the biggest mess of a movie I've seen in a long time. It's going to probably be on my top 10 list because it became at the beginning of the year, but it's going to be at the bottom until it's gone. The main premise of this movie is you have, Patrick Wilson playing a disgraced NASA astronaut, former NASA astronaut Brian Harper, and in his crewmate from the first scene in a they show kind of why he's disgraced. It played by Halle Berry under Jacinda Joe Fowler, who ended up becoming more of a deputy director of NASA after this pointless time jump happens. And they kind of lead the movie. Patrick Wilson for me was not very good in this. Halle Berry had times where she was decent, and I'll be honest, near the second third, like the second half of the movie, like the last third, Patrick Wilson was starting to get better. But I also think he knew what type of movie he was in, so I don't think he was looking to give his best performance. But the first third of this movie is just explanation, like just huge plots that's trying to make us care about these little family side characters, what the events in the opening scene and before the time skip does to their families and stuff in the end. And it's just pointless garbage nonsense that makes you roll your eye and is like, this probably wouldn't happen if this scenario happened in real life. And two, like, why are we spending 20-30 minutes on this for things that near the end of the movie don't pay off in that way? I don't understand why Brian Harper, the main astronaut character, had to be this disgruntled, broke astronaut after a 10-year time skip for something, and I don't understand why NASA would try to do that to him. It never made sense to me, and it didn't make sense when it happened. It didn't make sense during the rest of the movie. And overall, it was just like, meh, you know. So those are the two of your three main characters. Now, I will say, besides the previews of the movies, I mean, not all the previews were good. You have Michael Bay's Ambulance, which will probably be like this movie when it comes to bad movies of the year. Probably the bright spot of this movie is John Bradley, who you know from Game of Thrones as, the John's best buddy up on the wall with the watch and stuff, becomes a maester. John Bradley plays this conspiracy theorist scientist. It's not scientist. I don't know. I thought they did a good job in the movie building him up as a scientist, but then at the end they were just like, actually, he's not any of that stuff. He's just a genius that is a loser. Again, I don't know why they added a line for him that basically it was like, why do you add that in there? But John Bradley plays the character Casey Houseman, and I have to say, like, if there's one person that should come out of this movie getting work, please let it be John Bradley. He takes this conspiracy theorist, comic relief side character and makes you actually invested in him. He makes you relate to him. He actually gives this film some life throughout the very dry boredom that it is. I seriously, hoping like he's probably one of the best Game of Thrones performance actors that I've seen outside of the obvious ones um, that we've seen in some movies, and I really hope John Bradley can get some serious work in some higher level projects that have a good script, that have a plot that makes sense, that isn't spending so much time on characters that you don't build up and care about. And it gives him either whether it be a supporting role or I think he was good enough and charismatic enough in this movie to justify him having a lead role in a type of movie. Like seriously, I think he could be the next breakout star of Hollywood with some of these films, kind of like Jonah Hill was back in the day. I think he's great at comic relief. He has this like calm tone to him that makes you kind of relate to him and root for him. And he actually did the best with what was a horrible part in this movie. And some of the lines they gave him, like Godspeed to John Bradley for making it actually work in some way. Unfortunately, nobody really else was able to do that um, throughout this movie because you have, the main premise is the moon is out of orbit, it's falling, and NASA's trying to figure out how to stop this before, the Earth goes away. And there were some cool visuals, of like, parts of the moon breaking off and cool little waves with the gravity stuff. And you kind of had some cool parts there, but having side like kid characters be for family that you don't spend enough time with them to make me care, and the time you do spend with them, it just doesn't make much sense, and you make me not like them. Like seriously, like Patrick Wilson's Brian Harper, like the main actor, the main person in the movie. I don't know how we were supposed to like him as the movie went on, and how we were supposed to like relate to him in the first third or 2/3 of the movie. It wasn't until they finally started getting on their mission to go to the moon with the main three, Joe Fowler, Brian Harper, and Casey Houseman. You know that you actually got to care and felt like character progression and like you got to understand and know the person. Otherwise, it was just cheap throwaway lines that weren't well acted, so I didn't care as much. Some other perplexing things in this movie is Donald Sutherland is into it. Why is Donald Sutherland in this movie? He comes in for like 2 seconds, reads off a line to Halle Berry's character while he's in a wheelchair, and he goes away. Like he even had like the spoil parts of this. Like his character starts out with like he's loading a gun to kill himself. He wheels out to tell Halle Berry that there were some things we were going to try and things we learned about with the moon, and then he goes away, and you never see from him again. Like an Oscar-winning top-tier actor, just like does like Lionsgate have like a deal when he signed on to be a part of the Hunger Games that if they feel like they want to bring him in for the movie, he has to do it? I'm sure they paid him well for this 2 minutes of movie screen, but I just didn't understand it. Michael Pena as well, somebody who's really good in Ant-Man. He has really, really funny, good parts. And his character was probably the most interesting and best fleshed out side character. Being like the stepdad to Brian Harper's son, and being, and kind of showing that not all stepdads are a-holes. Like, he did the most of what he did, but like the character was still bland. And we spent like 40 minutes of parts of the movie that we didn't care about. So I'm not going to go much further here. Let's just go into the rankings where it's going to go. Um, Moonfall is definitely the third movie. I've only seen 3 new releases in 2020 here in America, and Moonfall is definitely the bottom. This was a horrible movie. Recommendations wise, the only way I think this movie should be watched is if you're doing all the chores in the house and it just happened to come on after the last thing you saw on TNT or somewhere where it's going to be. Um, this movie was not good. From the very beginning, the very first scene, you just cringe at dialogue, and it's not a good cringe. And even though there's some visuals that are good, and John Bradley does an amazing job with his character, I can't recommend anybody put their time in to watch this movie. I only did it because I got Regal Unlimited for the year, and my New Year's resolution was, hey, I'm going to go see everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, minus things that might make me uncomfortable. I'm going to go and see it. So here I am watching Moonfall because it was for free for me, and I said I was going to make a YouTube video for it. So, but even then, I wish I could go back to Josh that I was earlier this year and just whisper in his ear, "Don't go to Moonfall. It's not gonna be worth it." Because this movie was a giant waste of time, and like I said, the only thing I hope is that John Bradley can actually get some good work out of it, because I think he did a fantastic job in this movie with his character. But Moonfall is not a recommendation for me. If you enjoyed this review, this little, Josh rant about this movie, if you want to see me go to more bad movies, maybe have me see some good movies coming up. Death on the Nile coming up, I think, next weekend. I'm excited for that. Leave a like down below. Give a comment. Feel free to subscribe. Tell me what your favorite disaster movies are. Mine personally is probably Armageddon. I have kind of a strong attachment with that with me and my mom. We both loved that movie growing up. I know it's not a perfect movie, but it does the same concept that we're getting here in Moonfall a million times better. But thank you for stopping in. I hope you guys have an excellent time, and I hope your eyes never have to grace the movie that is known as Moonfall ever in your life. Until next time.